Hey, Facebook faithful, happy Hump Day. Welcome, Sergeant Dorsey live at 5 on Facebook. And I must be having like lots of senior moments because I keep forgetting to do my, poster in the early part of the day to remind you guys that I'll be live, at 5. But I'm assuming by now, Facebook faithful, you guys know that I'm live every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And you don't need those subtle reminders, do you, that I'm going to be here? If you do, just type in and tell me, reminders are helpful so that I'll be sure to send you one. You know what I'm doing right now, everybody. I'm putting this on my other pages and asking you to share this on your timeline as well. And there is breaking news right now. So I am going to get right to it. Jussie Smollett. I don't know why I can't pronounce that young man's name. Please forgive me for butchering it. But the Empire actor, Jussie, let me just say that. Jussie, his situation is headed to a grand jury. So, listen, I was going to talk a little bit about that whole situation anyway, because, people want to make sense of this, and it doesn't make sense to us. Someone seemingly who has everything going for them would risk it all behind a lie. Why? That's the thing that, human nature wants us to understand is the why. And we may never know why he did that. Hey, Michael, we may never know why he did that. But you know what I do know? I'll just share a little, police story because, sometimes folks like police stories. And listen, during my 20 years on the LAPD in uniform, working gangs, crash, South Bureau crash, there were many times when we would stop somebody and, when you dirty, you don't carry ID because, you don't want the police to know you dirty or you want it or you got a ticket that you didn't pay for. So, when you stop somebody, hey, Daryl, when you stop somebody and they don't have their license because it's suspended, the first thing they would say is, oh, officer, it's in my wallet, I left it at home or whatever they say. And then I already know that something's up. His license is probably not good, right? And they give a name, and you run the name, like Joe Smith, and he don't look like Joe Smith, right? But that's the name, and so he's sticking to it. And you're like, really, Negro Joe Smith? Is that who you are? Yeah, Officer Joe Smith. That's who I am. They give you a birth date, they give you an address, and the whole hookup, right? And there's nothing. There's no record. There's no arrest warrant. There's no driver's license. There's nothing under that name that they just gave you. So now you sparked my competitive spirit, right, as a police officer. So, I got 8 hours to figure this murder mystery out. We're going to get to the bottom of this, sir. Back in the day, before technology, and so I'm probably dating myself because, we used to have to take people down to the jail and fingerprint them. And then we had to run the fingerprints through the system, and we had to wait for the system to come back. And then bingo, he's not really Joe Johns. He's Leroy Johnson, and he's Code 6 Charles, which is our code term for, felon, bad actor, Code 6 Charles. And so, when we find out who they really are, usually the suspects, they're usually good-tempered about it because, we've been playing this game now for about 4 hours because that's how long it takes back in the day to have somebody fingerprinted and all that. And you're like, dude, why did you put me through that? Why did you just tell me who you really were and that you had a warrant for whatever? I may not have cared. I may have said, you know what, okay, I'm going to give you a break because you were honest with me, but now you done wasted 4 hours, half of my shift, and so, I'm going to go ahead and book you on this felony warrant now. And I'm going to impound your car and everything else that, I can do to inconvenience you because you've inconvenienced me. And it was so unnecessary. Sometimes that's the why. That's the thing that just doesn't make any sense. It was so unnecessary and so avoidable. And so as I was hearing the various things that were being said over, these last few days and weeks now regarding Jussie and this whole back and forth and the twists and the turns and this thing is like Lombard Street in Frisco, right? More twists, more turns, more angles, and everybody wants to be the first to come out with the breaking news, with the latest and the greatest. This young man is in a lot of trouble. And, a couple of days ago, the Nigerians who said they beat him up. They said they beat him up. And they came out with a statement, and in their statement, what they said is, they said, we are not racist, we are not homophobic, and we are not anti-Trump. We were born and raised in Chicago and are American citizens. And so when I looked at their statement, what they didn't say is, we didn't beat him up, because we already know they did. They admitted to it. And of course, Jussie said when he saw them on video, those are the guys, that's them. I'm sure and clear. Now, if these are friends of yours, we're acquaintances, you train me, we're at the gym, you're at my house, I'm doing music videos, and you're dancing in the background. If I know you and you know me, then I know you and you know me. So, how is it possible that two of your friends, two of your acquaintances could beat you up and you not recognize them for who they are when they beat you up? But you know the silhouette when you see it. And they've already said, we were the ones that beat him up. Allegedly, he paid us $3,500. I don't know if that was a piece or the total, because that's not a lot for the kind of trouble that they're in. Well, maybe they're not in so much trouble now, the Nigerian brothers, because they're going to flip, like, that dolphin I put up sometimes when, folks start flipping. Yeah, they're going to do that thing, right? Ola and Abel are the Nigerian brothers. But what they want you to know in their statement is that we're not homophobic, and we're not anti-Trump, and we're not racist. So when it finally comes out that they, in fact, were the ones who beat him up, because it was said that the people that beat him up were making racist and homophobic. Hey, Juanita, thanks. I appreciate the compliment on my hair. That the people that beat him up were making racist and homophobic chants, slurs. Yeah, they were saying stuff. And so these guys are saying we're not racist and we're not homophobic, because it's going to come out eventually that, they were the ones that beat him up. And so it was just looking all bad. And then, there were reports, and there's no reason that's been stated as to why. Hey, Sean, thanks for stopping by. No reason explained for the Cook County State Attorney Kim Fox, a sister girl. She has recused herself from this case. And so now it's going to be dealt with day to day by the first assistant state AG. And, I didn't say his name because it's not important. But I wonder why she recused herself, unless maybe she knows him by virtue of the fact that they do filming there in Chicago. That could be it. It could be something very innocent. And she wants to make sure that there is nothing untoward said with regards to whatever ultimately happens regarding, hey, David, regarding whether he's indicted or not. So she stepped aside. But, folks, are caught up in their feelings because, Chicago PD has a history of, being a little left to center and not always doing things the right way, and not always trusted, by our community, right? But the FBI is also involved in this. And so this would be a major conspiracy of magnificent proportions if everybody, was conspiring to, do great harm to this young man's reputation. And so the FBI is involved. And, I said this, when I was talking to my sister girl, Thais, who I just saw Thais on your timeline, that breaking news. So thanks for that, sis, about this thing going to a grand jury. But, we were talking about this, and I do believe that they're going to try to make an example out of him because he's wasting tremendous resources. And while I don't know this to be true, I think that there may be a bill at some point, restitution, whatever you want to call it, for the resources that are being expended in trying to, unfound his claim of an attack or prove that he, lied. Either way, those are a lot of people. 12 detectives working 24/7 from the Chicago PD, plus who knows how many FBI agents. Now, look, I don't know what an FBI agent makes an hour. I kind of have an idea. I don't know what Chicago PD is paying their cops an hour, but look at here. If Jussie is making this up, and I'm inclined to believe, because that's what my spider senses tell me, and my gut never lets me down, he needs to throw himself on the sword. He needs to say, you know what, I was walking through the house and I turned the corner too quick and hit my head on something, and when I came to, there was a noose around my neck, and I thought what I thought. So please forgive me, and when you guys start having that, sex with me, could you not make it unprotected? Could you at least put on a condom when you get at me, right? And I'm not saying sex because he's gay, right? I'm just being stupid because that's what I do sometimes. But they're going to hurt him. And it's not going to be good. Sherry, you said you can't understand, and what did he gain? I don't know. See, that's the why. That's the why. That's the thing that human nature wants us to be able to explain. We want to be able to ascribe something that makes sense when we see things that are nonsensical. And so we may never know, because in order for him to tell us why, he may have to admit to some things that, he may not want to admit. And listen, I also feel like this. I get that he's a public figure, he's a celebrity, and, to some extent, everybody wants to know what's up with him. But really, truly, are we entitled to know? Do we need to know what, do we need to know what's going on with him from A to Z? I don't know that we're entitled to that. But I think that they should allow him to go get in a quiet, dark corner and have a conversation with investigators and his attorney, and just purge himself of whatever this is that made him do that dumb stuff that he did. Because the longer this thing goes on, and the longer it is being dealt with by investigators, I think that there is absolutely a bill at the end of that situation. So I'm going to share this breaking news story that just came out with the link with regards to this thing going to a grand jury now. So that's what's going on. And listen, and there's a little bit more with regards to Jussie, and he has a history, and I'm not judging him for that. I'm not judging him, but certainly others may, because he has been, it's not his first dance with the police. He's been arrested before. Evidently, he filed a false police report, and it was described as a class 4 it's a class 4 felony in Illinois, filing a false police report. And the FBI, now that they're involved with this letter that was sent to him, it was supposed to be some homophobic threat letter that was sent. So the FBI is investigating to see whether or not he crafted that letter, because if he did and he mailed it to himself, they're getting ready to throw in mail fraud, which is, probably a whole nother 10 years. They're not playing with him. They are not playing with him. But what I wanted to say is that back in 2007, he pleaded no contest to 3 misdemeanor counts stemming from a DUI here in LA. And one of those 3 counts that he pled no contest to, and no contest is basically the same as saying I'm guilty, was giving false information to the police. Now, the false information that he gave to the police back in 2007 was he gave a false name. Big deal. That in and of itself probably wouldn't be an issue, but they are going to use that going forward, and a jury is not going to be playing with him about this. And when they see, if they find out that he has this history and that he does have a criminal record, even though it's very minor, DUI, and given a false name, it could be problematic. Back in 2007, he was given 3 years probation when he pled no contest. So there is a basis for him to get a little bit of time if he's found guilty this time around. So I don't know. It doesn't look good, and it's just really unfortunate. I was going to say that, he's working with a brain that's not fully developed, but he's 34 years old, so I can't just say that he's just young and stupid, and, we can't blame it on that. He should know better at 34. Something's going on. Anyway, next story. Oh, hey, Barry, you like my eyeshadow? Thanks. I appreciate that. The next story is, celebrity related, police related, and this involves, many of you have probably heard by now, 50 Cent, NYPD deputy inspector, I believe is his title on the NYPD. This jackass, during roll call back in June, he told all of his officers, if you see 50 Cent in New York, because 50 Cent was supposed to be coming to Brooklyn for some kind of a boxing match or something, and this police executive said that during roll call, if you see him, shoot him on sight. And so now, it's a big deal. There were 8 officers who were present and 1 supervisor who heard it and have seemed to take issue with this, deputy inspector saying if you see 50, shoot them on sight. And listen, as a police officer, when somebody does something and says some stupid stuff like that in your presence, you almost are bound to report it. Otherwise, if it gets out and you didn't, then you are guilty for acquiescing police misconduct, or in this case, a threat, a terrorist threat. In some places, when you threaten someone's life, could you imagine if 50 Cent had made a threat to, have his entourage shoot this deputy inspector on site? He'd be in jail right now. You'd be in jail right now for that. But this guy's got 30 years on the job. Hey, John, he's got 30 years on the job, and I promise you, while they review it, because they're reviewing it over there at the NYPD. I don't know, what the chief over there, I think his name is Neil or something. I don't know what he's reviewing, and Mayor de Blasio, he's got to know about this. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, if they try to come for him administratively, he'll retire. He'll retire in lieu of. And, that'll be the end of that, because you can't do anything to him once he's gone. But anyway, that was just really a stupid thing. And they seem to have some kind of, ongoing beef anyways. This male testosterone thing you guys have coursing through your body sometimes will make you do some stupid stuff. And so clearly, this 30-year veteran NYPD command staff officer told his officers during roll call, shoot 50 Cent on sight. And now 50 Cent is, he's being quite prolific. I'm reading on Instagram about how he feels about that, his safety, and what ultimately should happen with regards to this, to the perceived threat, and he perceives it. Okay, so Max, you want me to explain mail fraud? Dude, that's not my wheelhouse. I'm not no FBI agent. I just know you can't be sending stupid stuff in the mail. And so, that's the thing that people don't think about when and clearly these young men weren't thinking about they didn't think this thing out. They didn't think about all of the long-term ramifications in terms of what they did. But when you send things through the mail, that adds a whole nother component when you are, involved in criminality and you do it using the United States Postal Service. Then you hear about mail fraud being an added count against you. So he's facing, state count. He's facing federal crimes, state crimes, federal crimes. But I couldn't tell you what a prima facie case for mail fraud would be, because I don't do that. I didn't deal with mail fraud when I was, chasing gangsters eastbound through the houses. So I don't know a whole lot about that. But certainly, sir, if you would like to know more, may I direct you over to Google, because, you can find out all sorts of stuff on the internet now. You could probably even, do heart bypass on Google. Sherry, you're asking me, are there local, state, and federal charges pending against him? Well, nothing is pending right now because it's supposedly gone to a grand jury. So the grand jury will indict him, and who knows what the charges will ultimately be when they indict him. But since the FBI is involved, and the FBI means federal, if they find him, if they find that there is sufficient cause to charge him with a federal crime, then they can do that. And so he will be facing charges in state court, and he will be facing charges in federal court. And, my guess is when everything is said and done, of course, he's going to cop a plea. He's going to plead to something because he's not going to be able to, he don't want that kind of work, whatever, years and years in jail. Really? And listen, we know, going to federal jail, federal prison don't, mean you're going to be in a good place, because just last week we heard and I reported that Jason Van Dyke, the police officer who shot Laquan McDonald, is in federal prison, and somebody handed him his ass. I talked about that on my podcast, so I won't go into a lot of detail about that now, but if you want to hear more about that story, you can go and subscribe to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks on the podcast platform of your choice. And and hear a little bit about, what happened to Laquan McDonald's murderer in federal prison. Anybody can get got. Whitey Bulger got. What was the cannibal? The dude that was eating up all the people. God, I can't say his name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. I think he probably wanted to get got because he admitted to, cooking people in his house and all of that foolishness. I don't know why I can't say his name, but federal prison doesn't mean that you're going to be okay if you go to federal prison. So I don't think Jussie wants that work. I really don't. Now, there's another story that I want to share with you, and this one is really troubling. I'm going to put the link up so you can read it in its entirety, but the bottom line is a few days ago or a week ago, something like that, there was a pimp in Brooklyn, New York. There was a pimp in Brooklyn who just got sentenced to 12 years in prison. And he was sentenced to this 12 years in prison because he had pimped out a little sixth grader. Now, I don't know how he, I don't know what was going on in this young child's life where her family, allowed her to be in a position to be victimized. But the way the story is reported, and I have the link up so you can read it for yourself, because, I don't want you guys to be sheeple. I don't want you to just listen to what I say when I'm yammering on and just think because I say it is so. I want you to check it out for yourself and know what's going on. But anyway, so this guy, he lured this sixth grader to an apartment in Manhattan under the guise of a babysitting gig. So my first question is, what sixth grader would be finding some kind of a babysitting gig? Was it online? Was it Craigslist? I don't know. Oh, Jeffrey Dahmer. Thanks, John. I'm subject hopping. Jeffrey Dahmer also was killed in prison. He was the one that was cooking people and eating them. But anyway, so back to this sixth grader. So she went to this Manhattan apartment under the guise of a babysitting gig, and then she was sexually assaulted and forced into prostitution. But look, this wasn't a one-time situation. This little girl was forced into prostitution over a period of 11 months. 11 months. So did they kidnap her? Did they keep her there? Where was her family? And if they didn't kidnap her, what did she say on those instances when she was able to go home? And why did she go back? I mean, I got a litany of questions about that. And the fact that this guy was given, 12 years, really? Because this little girl she's in a bad way. You have to imagine that she is going to probably need therapy for the rest of her life. This happened in 2015. So if she was 12 then, that means she's, a little bit older now. 4 years ago, so she's 16. That's still so young to have lived and dealt with the things that she dealt with. And if you read the article, she testified, bless her heart, against this creature. And she spoke to what she's dealing with right now with regards to having been trafficked in that way for 11 months. So this guy, this miscreant, his name is Anthony Charles. He's 24 years old, and he has a co-defendant by the name of William McNeil. And William McNeil pleaded guilty to one count of sex trafficking, and part of his plea deal, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. That doesn't seem like enough. And listen, I don't know, I'm not on the jury. Obviously, I didn't follow the trial. I don't know if it was a situation of, and I don't even know the ethnicity of this child. But I'm wondering if her ethnicity played a part in such a light sentence for what they did to her, and how clearly she is going to be dealing with these issues and may never be right. She may never recover as a result of it. So I'm really bothered by the whole 12 years and then 5 years, because you understand, if those are state crimes, you understand that 12 years don't mean 12 years, right? 12 years means, he could do much less, and 5 years means he could be out, in 2.5. So very problematic. Again, why I always say, you guys, you need to get on these juries, and you need to be a part of that judicial process when, it's time for sentencing, have some say about what happens. Anyway, my next story that I want to share with you is, something that I had spoken about earlier here in California. There was a law that passed, I think it was AB Assembly Bill 1421, where California law enforcement officers are required to produce records when you're engaged in anything that winds up with serious bodily injury, police shootings, police misconduct, officers lying. All of those records now need to be public. And so under this new bill that just passed, but the police unions here, the Police Protective League is what we have on the LAPD, and other unions here in California are fighting this thing vehemently. And so a judge just ruled, although this is not the final say, but a judge just ruled here in California that not only do the police departments have to make these records available, but they have to make them retroactive. And so that's one of the things that law enforcement is trying to fight with this new transparency law. They don't want the records to be released in the first place, and the fact that they would allow old records to be made available, of course could bring, substantiate some lawsuits that probably heretofore, people couldn't really have much to say because they didn't have any evidence to support that the use of force was excessive and unnecessary. So right now the judge is saying make it retroactive. All records must be made available, and police unions are asking that there be a delay pending final adjudication or final resolution, if you will, in this judge's decision. Originally, March 1st is when people were supposed to be able to go back and get those records. But since they're appealing, unions are appealing it, and it's in the appellate court, they're asking that the appellate court, for now, block the release of any information pending the court's ultimate decision about what to do. So anyway, so that's what's going on here, and that's all I have for you. I just wanted to come and give you a little bit of update, give you a little bit about what I think about the whole Jussie situation and where I think this thing is going. And listen, before I go, because, I don't really do politics, but every now and then I just see something that just really makes my day. And I don't know if any of you guys saw little Tink Tink's, I got to get a name for him, the little engine that could, Mike Pence, because, he really want to be the president, right? He's just sitting back all quiet and just watching lovingly and longingly, as he looks at the president, his president, that president, when he's speaking. So, he was over in another country a few days ago, and he came with great tidings and good news from the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. And listen, it was just like crickets for real. And he actually had the temerity to sit there and wait for an applause, and it wasn't one. And then he said some other old stupid stuff a little while later, and he was waiting for applause and crickets. And then they showed the daughter wife, because she was there in the room too, and she had her little earpiece to her ear, and she was sitting there looking so pensive as she was listening to what was being translated, as they were just, Chancellor Angela Merkel was just dragging little Tink Tink back and forth across the stage, if you will, figuratively. And she was sitting there listening, trying to, keep her poker face on as everybody, laughed and made fun of her dad on this global setting. And so I just really enjoyed it. I'm here for all the foolishness that goes on a global stage, because, we know here that he's stupid, and, ultimately he knows he's stupid. But to see other countries, and I hope that when everything is said and done, that we can get somebody in office who will repair the damage to the reputation of the United States so that we can get back on track. So, going to be very interesting. Lots of people are joining the race. I think Bernie Sanders just joined again. Why, I don't know, but nonetheless, he did. And I saw some rumblings about Biden maybe getting in with Beto. Now, that might be an interesting ticket, but I don't know if, egos and personalities, I don't know who would want to take a second seat. I don't know if Beto would do that or anyway, there's all kind of couplings and pairings, but what I do know is that the Democrats better get together because otherwise, if we don't have a viable candidate, I don't think it'll be little Tink Tink because he's going to have some other stuff that's going to be preoccupying him in 2020. But definitely we need to have somebody who will be a viable candidate to go up against whatever Republican they put up. So I'm just going to kind of keep my fingers crossed and watch and wait and see, who ultimately gets the nomination before I get all bent out of shape about, the 800 people that are throwing their hat in the ring, because before long, yeah, I heard there was over 400 applicants, Sherry. I saw that for the president. That's bananas. But I hope, eventually they're going to weed out the weak ones, and then we'll be left with, I hope, like I said, a viable candidate. So whenever that happens, you guys, don't do like you did in 2016. You got to vote. You have to vote, not only for the president, because, SCOTUS is a big deal, as we see playing out right now. You got to vote down ballot because obviously, you got this wingnut putting people in position in federal judgeships that are lifetime also, that are problematic. Things that we don't even hear about that are going on behind the scenes, but they're still mucking stuff up. Those Republicans, they're relentless, and so we need to be, as vigilant as they are. So please don't sleep on this next election, even if it's somebody that you don't like, and I'm not really, advocating voting for somebody because, they're a specific gender or because they're a specific race. I really want someone who will do good for the company, for the country. But, I would vote, I'd vote for a whole bunch of people that I may not want to be the president, just to avoid, somebody tink like, or, the little engine who could, Pence, because trust and believe, if they were to impeach little Tink Tink, and I don't want him to impeach him, I need him to finish out these 2 years. I need them to ride him rough and hard for the next 2 years, because Mike Pence, in my opinion, is much more dangerous than this fool that we have in the White House, because Pence is a politician. And he knows, what kind of damage he could do if he were in there. So we just need to white knuckle hold on with this fool, and then when he gets out of office, there'll still be plenty of time to indict that ass on whatever criminal charges are out there, because the statute of limitations will not have run, and they will be able to get that ass. And I'm believing that this Congress will, because they're over there primed and ready to go. So I don't want to see him get impeached. I want him to finish his term, and then we need to get somebody who's going to try to right this ship before, damage that cannot be undone occurs, if we're not already there. So listen, you guys, it is almost 45 minutes or so into my diatribe. Thanks for sticking around. My concern is always the longer I stay, I run the risk of somebody bumping me off. I don't know if it's, Russian bots, if it's gremlins, if it's, just a coincidence. But I made it. And so thank you. For those of you who are new, thank you for stopping by. Like, subscribe, and follow me on Facebook, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, on YouTube, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. I'll be putting this up on YouTube, and I'm curious to see what my what do they call them, my subbies, my YouTube subscribers, because that's a rowdy bunch over there, you guys. I told you they tried to drag me last week, but I was having none of that about that shooting of the young man in the Taco Bell drive-thru. So this will be going up on my YouTube channel. Be sure to stop by and subscribe to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks on the podcast platform of your choice. Visit my website, www.sgtsheryldorsey.com. That's sergeantcheryldorsey.com. You can visit sergeantdorseyspeaks.com, and you can purchase my book and hear all about my amazing, illustrious 20-year career on the Los Angeles Police Department, and purchase my book, Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate, which is available at Amazon.com, or you can go to my website, SergeantCherylDorsey.com, and purchase a autographed copy. I'll send you one, and I'll say, nice things if you tell me what you want me to say in your own personal autograph book. So until next time, you guys, be good and be safe. See you next week.